Big topics, big news, big rich. The Big Show. It's where it happens. Zombies. Described as fictional undead beings created through the reanimation of a corpse. They're most notable in horror and fantasy genre works. However, there is much, much more to the mystical history and unreal origins that came to us almost 300 years ago. So lock your doors and turn off your lights as we journey in to this mysterious topic next on The Big Show. And welcome to The Big Show, everybody. Tonight, not her first time, her second time, but 3 times a lady. Katie Kenner is back on The Big Show. And I hope you guys have on your poker faces because we're going all in on zombies. What do you think?
It's zombie time.
How you doing tonight?
It's zombie time. I'm good. Good weekend. You know, it's turning into fall. Things are delightful. Halloween is, upon us. It's that spooky season. I think we're rounding the corner of like All Saints Day and Dia de los Muertos. So lots of cool energies, lots of neat stuff going on. So
Absolutely.
Good time of year, good stuff.
Yeah. I hate to say farewell to summer because I love the warm weather and barbecues, but I also like the nice, snap, crackle, and pop of a wood fire going when it's chilly out. And it's getting about to be that time. And with weather being all weird right now, it's kind of we're getting snow in the panhandle and
which is crazy. Yeah, my in-laws, they sent me a picture. They live in Kansas. They had snow. What is going on? Yeah. Meanwhile, it was 70, 72, 73 here today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice. Hey, lucky you. No, I was out in the freezing rain. But that's all right. I'm not too mad about that. So, fans, tonight we are bringing you zombies. And later in the show, Katie is going to give you her top 5 ways that she thinks maybe the zombie apocalypse could hit us, and we'll kind of throw that around in theory craft with that. But before we get into that, I kind of thought maybe we could introduce you to a little history, not only on the word zombie, but on what it ties to. And I know whenever I hear the word zombie, I automatically do think voodoo. And maybe that's because I did spend some time down in the swamp bayous of New Orleans. And there, whenever you heard the word voodoo, you'd always hear, oh, there's a zombie around, or don't make somebody mad because they can put that voodoo curse on you and you don't want to be a zombie. So I've always tied the two together, which is not far off because the actual word zombie, it goes back to about the 17th century. And it's tied in with the Haitian, the islands there in the West Indies, specifically Haiti, and the Haitian religion of voodoo. And how they came across voodoo is that the northern and western countries that the Spaniards and the Italians and the French were going over and either trading with or raiding the villages and then bringing the captives back to do slave labor in the fields on the plantations in Haiti and the surrounding islands in the West Indies. And so each of these little villages, while they shared a core in their religious beliefs, maybe it might be a god or a spirit or a dance, they also all varied. But when they came to the Haitian, to Haiti, the Haitian and West Indian area, they were automatically baptized. And then they were told, you're now Catholic, and this is all that you can do. You can worship, and now you're a Catholic Christian. So Catholicism
Mhm.
was basically forced upon them. So
Right.
in their spare time or at night or, behind the scenes, they would still practice their old villages' spiritual religions. And after years of this happening, it kind of just evolved into what is now modern day voodoo. And voodoo is a religion and has over 50 million people that follow the religion. So that's nothing to scoff at. And
Mm-mm.
you will find it's in the West, is specifically in Haiti, 90% of the population is practicing voodoo. And they are so deep into the practice that they even have had Supreme Court rulings where people have died, documented, and come back a zombie, and now they're documented through the courts as a zombie. And when they come back as a zombie, the person who, or sorcerer, I say person, they're usually a sorcerer who does the zombification on them, they control that person's life from that point on. So now they say they come back as a zombie, spiritless. You're going to work my fields now. That is your punishment in the afterlife. But it's really not an afterlife because they're the walking dead, supposedly. So that's kind of a little brief rundown. Um,
Mhm.
and with the word voodoo itself, it comes from the Dahomey dialect, which, and they spelled it Vodu. And we, through the years, have been conditioned and turned it into the Voodo, the voodoo that we know, the voodoo that you do so well, Katie.
Excellent.
Look, let's turn over there. So we didn't really see it hit the Americas till about 200 years ago, about 250 years probably. And obviously it hit the Gulf Shores, Mississippi, New Orleans, the southern Florida and Key West area. And actually, right now, the top 4 cities that you'll find that voodoo is practiced in the U.S., and it's not limited to these, but will be New Orleans, Miami, Chicago, New York. It's also very prevalent in southern Mississippi, Biloxi area, as well as in South Carolina, in a few of the towns, and I'm sure all over the country. But those 4 that I named off first were it's most prevalent. And then obviously in the Caribbean, and it's still practiced in some of the city states in northern and western Africa. So I thought that was very interesting. How about yourself, Katie?
No, I didn't realize, that Chicago. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me, but that Chicago was so heavily populated with voodoo. You did say something, and I'm curious. Just because when we talk about zombies and sorcerers and things like that, and when a sorcerer creates a zombie, they then become indebted to them, and they are then their slave. And I wonder if, as those people that practice voodoo, as they started to become liberated from, their slave owners, and slavery, kind of dwindled out in a lot of those cultures, if it is then that zombification really became more prevalent, just kind of
Yeah.
reiterating that power structure.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not okay to do this to somebody of our own
Mm-hmm.
unless it is some sort. I don't know. I would like to dig deeper into that. I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to know if originally zombification was something that was seen in the original, voodoo structures in Northern Africa and in Western Africa. I'd be curious to hear that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, just with the little research that I did do, I know that some of the tribes were heavy into the darker, the demon spirits and things of that sort. and zombification was a part of that. Now, as far
It was.
yeah, and only in some of the tribes. Like I said, not all of them
Hmm.
practice the same, because some voodoo is good voodoo, if that makes sense. And what I'm saying is, there's light and dark in everything. And from my
Sure.
research, I don't practice it, and I would never judge anyone that does. I find it very interesting. But there is light and dark. But I did come across several cases in Haiti where land disputes are very serious between family members. And if
Okay.
you're caught trying to cheat a family member over land or dispute it with them, it's weighed very heavy in the courts, and also sometimes with death. So often you'll find, if, let's say, for example, the bloodline, there's an uncle, but there's two nephews younger than him and a brother that are all in line for that property. It might just so happen that those three that are in line all of a sudden become zombies. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Wow.
Okay,
Okay.
and I watched several documentaries that involve stuff like that. So, is it somewhat what you were just trying to kind of theory craft about?
I
Could
mean,
be,
it, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. And I think it's also, you kind of talked about how it's come to the U.S. And I think now, you definitely correlate zombies with voodoo. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of younger people, know the correlation, but don't. Voodoo is not the first thing that pops in their head. It's the eating flesh and tearing things apart, and Bill Murray making it one of the greatest cameos of all time. It's this Walking Dead type feel, and I can see where the argument would come from that it's not the same, or maybe it's a terrible depiction of what it is, but it's that sort of Hollywood zombie that I think a lot of us want to dig into and find out if that sort of thing is capable of happening, because that's terrifying.
Right,
The idea, the idea that there's something that could happen to humans that would make us turn on each other and, have some sort of post-apocalyptic thing, whatever it is. But I think the Hollywood version of zombies is really what a lot of people think of nowadays when they think of the word zombie.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'd like to touch base on that. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. A lot of people, all right, I know, and I say a lot of people because I talk to people. I've been giving away a lot of zombie stuff, Walking Dead stuff specifically. And we were at an event this last weekend, and I talked with several people on the streets and in the booth about zombies, because I knew that it was coming up. So you're right. A lot of people, and what they think, they go, oh, yeah, George Romero with Night of the Walking Dead, or Night of the Living Dead, or what is that? And
Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead from 1978-ish, maybe.
I don't think it's that.
No?
Hold on, we can find out though.
Okay. Well, while you're looking, I'm going to keep talking about it. But
Yeah,
a lot of people would refer to that movie as the first actual true zombie flick. And here's what I found interesting, and I would have to correct them. I would say it's actually not, because he referred to his zombies, or the undead, I should say, as ghouls. He didn't refer to them as zombies. It wasn't until the media caught wind of the movie and they kind of gave it the zombie name when they were talking about it, because he would refer to the undead as fiends or ghouls. But did you find a date on that?
I did. You
68?
ready? You want to take one more guess? I'll give you one more guess on it.
I thought it was in the 70s.
Nope.
60s?
1968.
Yeah, 1968. Okay. All right.
68.
All right. So I said 78. I was 10 years off. All right. So 1968.
You're thinking Saturday Night Fever, which is a whole different mind possession.
I thought that was Rhinestone Cowboy. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's Urban Cow. No, you're not going to get me on this one. That is Urban Cowboy. And Sissy, don't you ride that bull? Don't you ride that zombie bull?
Oh, I love it. All right. So, all right, we got that. 1968 for that movie. And people think of that as the first zombie movie when, in fact, it's not. There's one way earlier than that. 1932, there was a movie and it was produced and it was called White Zombie. And no, we're not talking about the band. We're talking about what? A Bela Lugosi special. That's right. Bela Lugosi starred in The White Zombie, and it was actually based on true zombies. It was based in Haiti, and he was in love with a girl on the plantation, and he wanted to control her fully. So I guess the only way that he was able to do this was do zombification. So that's what that movie's based on. So that's really our true 1932 would be the first White Zombie with Bela Lugosi in the US. Then we move forward. And what's kind of funny is it was stagnant. You want to look something else up real quick while I'm talking?
Sure, yeah.
The Walking Dead comics. I think it's Skybound Comics that did it. What is the date when those exactly came out? Because 2005 keeps sticking in my mind. But I know that from the research I did, there was a big explosion with zombies being Americified, McDonald's, fast food. Everything's big and large and ripping your skin and running and jumping and the zombies we have today. Those were really making a huge explosion on TV and media and things like that around 2002. And it's carried this snowball effect on up until now. We're getting ready to go on to 2020. Did you find a date on that?
I did. So The Walking Dead debuted in 2003.
Okay.
Published by Image Comics. Yep. The first 6 issues were then released, and then they re-released it with the art shading. But 2003, which seems, I know that seems right for you. That seems like it seems like it came out earlier than that. I thought it was late 90s.
Right. Now, I don't know who it is, if it's DC or Marvel, but they actually, one of the two had a superhero that was a zombie. He was an actual zombie superhero. And I forget his name. I don't know what it was.
Almost argue that was Deadpool, but
no. But he was kind of dead, wasn't he? Yeah, you couldn't kill him. But
so all right, so there's actually a bunch of different ones that are like this, but there is Marvel Zombies, and within the Marvel multiverse is an alternate Earth, which contains alternate zombie versions of Marvel superheroes. They are driven by the hunger for human flesh. That, I don't know that I have a date on that. Let's see, one of the DC. It's hard to do research on this just because there's so much fan fiction, like multiverse kind of stuff, that it's, let's see. It really is just Marvel Zombies, where they take like all the Avengers and make them all into like a pillow.
I just thought when I was younger, I remember something, and I'll look it up, and if I find it, I'll throw it up on the screen here or at the end. But it was something like he made a special appearance with the Swamp Thing or something to that effect. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a comic nerd from way back, folks. Sorry.
And I think it's important to kind of just understand that, Hollywood and, media and writing and comics and imagination has really taken this religious and spiritual figure and done so much more with it to where it's now evolved, kind of like we've been talking about, where it really is this like face melding, decomposition, lifeless thing that craves other blood. And it is funny to kind of think about how that has evolved through the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And it's like with anything, you bring it to America, and we've got to over sensationalize it and supersize it and
Yep.
neon light it, and so where it went from the George Romero slow, very minimal makeup of, to this, like you said, the super decomposed jaw falling off, intestines dragging on the ground, and I'm ripping your nose off on TV, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then even some of the different genres of zombies, they have superhuman speed. They're running like in
Yeah.
so that's the part that scares me, is the zombie movies where these things have strength and can run, because I'm a big boy. I would be dead in the first week. At least if they're moving and I can tie their shoelaces together, or
Right.
I can hold them off with some shotguns in my AR. Hey, we're in business. A big guy can
Right.
survive. I'll work on my cardio, like they say in Zombieland.
Yeah. These super speed zombies. I'm out. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm out. I'm not
I
coming back.
I definitely am. I'd have to get like a rocket powered wheelchair and just have machine guns on each side of it, and then my son can stand on the back of it. We just go rolling down the street.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. But
Funny.
anyways, folks, hopefully you guys are enjoying the ride so far. I'm having a great time, as I always do with Katie. I feel she's a great co-host, and she always brings her touch and a lot to the show. So before we delve into her top five,
Top 5.
top 5 ways that she think the zombie apocalypse can appear or fall upon us, we want to take a
Right.
brief intermission and show you a few little images and videos that I put together about the zombies. And it only take 20, 30 seconds, but I felt that it was important to maybe show you the evolution from the beginning in history to where they are at now. And with that said, here we go. And now back to the show.
So what I have done is I have compiled my top 5 ways that I think the zombie apocalypse is actually going to happen, from very least likely to actually I think that this might happen. And so my number 5
Oh
least
no,
likely
you didn't.
no, my least likely way that I think that the zombie apocalypse is going to happen is the rapture, the Christian rapture. And really what the Christians believe is going to happen in the rapture is that those who believe in Jesus are going to be brought up to heaven, which is going to leave then a group of humans down here on earth that are going to have to fend for themselves. And we're not really sure. The rapture isn't really well defined anywhere in religious texts, and there's been hundreds of books written about this. But I think what could happen is that there are a group of people that are left to kind of, post-apocalyptic fend for themselves. And we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe God takes all the cows and chickens and stuff with them too. So people are going to have to feed on themselves or whatever. Again, I'm kind of playing into this Hollywood humans turning on humans type deal. We also don't know how it's going to affect their brain. It could cause mass states of hysteria and mania. And so I think that the number 5 least likely way that zombies are going to happen is from the Christian rapture.
Okay.
Number 4. Number 4 is demonic possession. And again, this is probably the least likely way, but the Catholic Church has done a really great job of perpetuating this idea of, demonic possession and exorcisms and things like that. And there's all sorts of interesting ways that the evil spirits can embed the mind and the body and the soul and, make these very rash, harsh decisions and, turn on other people. And so who knows what bodies possessed by demonic spirits could do. They may eat other humans to try to possess them. I don't know. But I think that that's the number 4 way that zombies could possibly happen.
I like it.
Number 3. And number 3 was really, it could have been number 1. But I really thought that it was the tipping point into a possible reality. And the number 3 way that I think that zombies may happen is artificial intelligence, or AI. And here's why. AI, as we know it right now, is an incredible, amazing thing. They are embedding and implanting all sorts of different electrodes connected with computers to help people that have been disabled or have been paralyzed or have lost certain functionalities of their brain, people that have chronic seizures, people that have been paralyzed from the waist down, walk again. And I think it's beautiful and amazing. Implanted defibrillators, things like that. So artificial intelligence, as we know it right now, is a beautiful, wonderful thing. However, artificial intelligence is also making its way to a more human learned type feel. And there is a documented couple, and he is a computer genius. And what he's done over the past several years is documented his wife and has electronically recorded. And they were on, I think, I know that you've seen this. They did some stuff on like Nightline or Dateline or something like that.
Very familiar. And, very familiar with it.
Yeah, and he actually created a whole upper bust of her. And what the computer has learned from not only her voice, her inflections, her facial recognition, things like that, is he has encapsulated his wife into this AI bust. And it is a little alarming how similar they are and how much this computer learned about his wife. And I think that could really be the evolution of where zombies go. Now, you say, Katie, but an AI zombie may not eat another human. Or we don't have that kind of flesh on flesh kind of evil thing. Well, does an AI robot become aware? Do they incorporate morals? That's something that has been addressed over and over and over again. Hollywood, again, done a great job of kind of bringing us this moral dilemma. But one of the things that you and I had discussed when we were kind of originally talking about these thoughts and theories was, well, how does one continue to live, or do humans just go away? And, it kind of boils down to, well, do humans stay the host? And if so, is there a need for then humans? And my argument would be yes, because there hits a point in technology where technology no longer learns. right? We need
Mhm.
humans to do updates. Our iPhones are the best example of that. You know, 3 years, you get a brand new iPhone, and 3 years from now, they're obsolete. They won't even take the new iPhone update. Thanks,
Right.
Apple. You know, and I can't imagine that AI technology would be any different. So there would be a need, you know, a symbiotic relationship would need to be there between the existing humans and our ever-growing brain and knowledge, and the upkeep or maintenance from the AI community. And you know, kind of going back to that original zombie voodoo tie-in, where one is owed to the other, or one is working for the other. You know, do the humans then stay, you know, the owners, or the I hate to use that sort of terminology, and my apologies if that offended anyone, but it truly is one of those things where are they AI zombies then indebted to the living humans? And I don't know, you know, it's kind of that grayscale gray area.
Yeah,
But
it's rough.
that,
Well, you also, I don't want to stop you because you're on a roll,
no.
but with the whole AI thing, it depends on what level we take it to.
Mm-hmm.
And as we transcend into this, you know, the 5G AI Internet of Things time, do we transcend as well as AI slash human hybrids? Where we were talking about that, could there be a blood and flesh living skin over a robotic skeletal AI that is your wife? You see what I'm saying? But yet you're 100% human, or your husband, and you're 100% human, and they're partial human, part computer. You know, they're trying to mold the two together and kind of
Sure.
make, see. So maybe that's where the infections incur, or something when we get to that point.
Well, and you have to remember, you know, our brain and our body is little electric, you know, currents. We are little balls of talking energy, you know, with cells and blood and things like that. Well, what happens when you replace that? What happens when you have a whole internal skeleton of titanium and electrodes and a hybrid blood-like substance that's able to keep the brain alive, that's able to keep the conscious alive? And then what do? Do you farm out human skin from donors? Or do you just constantly swap out a heart or a lung from other donors? Like, you know, and maybe that's where the replacement of body parts kind of comes in, or like the farming of human beings. You know, it kind of then looks at almost like a caste system. You know, you have the developers, you have the humanoids, you have the donors, you have the breeders, and of course now we're talking, you know, Huxley type scenario.
Well, not
You
only
know,
that, but you're going to tie in the cloning centers.
sure.
You know, that at that point, having 5, 6, 7 versions of yourself cloned strictly for farming the hearts, the lung, the stomach, the innards, you know,
Sure.
the eyes, the tongue, you know, what have you. So yeah, I mean, number 3 is kind of like leading us into that, you know, I'm on the highway to the danger zone.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that was why I thought that this could have very easily been number 1, right? But I really wanted something to tip the scales and kind of say, all right, now we're at a place where there's some things that could happen. So AI is staying as officially my number 3. My number 2, I think this is truly the second most likely way that zombies may happen. And this is actually an idea that I caught listening to about a year ago. And I'm sourcing, I am not an ecologist, I am not a neurobiologist or anything like that. So I had to get these sources. So I'm getting a lot of this information that I'm going to talk about from BBC. But there are long dormant bacteria and viruses actually trapped in ice and the permafrost that, as they are starting to melt, are now coming to the surface and starting to re-inhabit the earth. And these are bacteria and viruses that haven't been seen on Earth for thousands of years. And a really great example of this is in August of 2016, in a remote corner of the Siberian tundra called the Yarmo Peninsula. It's actually in the Arctic Circle. A 12-year-old boy died, and at least 20 other people were hospitalized after being infected by anthrax.
Oh, wow.
All right. And the theory is that over 75 years ago, a reindeer that was infected with anthrax died, and its frozen carcass became trapped under a layer of frozen soil known as the permafrost. It then stayed there until a heat wave in the summer of 2016 when the permafrost thawed. This exposed the reindeer corpse and released the infectious anthrax into the nearby water and soil, and then into the food supply, which then hit more than 2,000 reindeer that all became infected, which then led to the small case of humans in Siberia getting anthrax. So
that's very interesting.
Right? Now, I'm not saying that anthrax is what's going to cause zombies. What I am saying, however, is that there are myriads of viruses and bacteria that we can't even imagine, let alone know how to handle. And I think, again, going back to Hollywood, Hollywood has done a beautiful job of propagating this idea that zombies in the flesh-eating, attacking other humans way is sparked by a virus. So if we want to take that route, and again, not know how these viruses are going to affect humans, I think that if we're going the viral route of zombieism, I think that viruses trapped in the permafrost and in the melting ice caps is a really good way that we're going to catch a virus that's going to make us all eat each other.
That's okay. I buy into that one. That one, we don't know. We don't know what has been frozen, and we don't know what what they were dealing with. Even go back 4, 5, 6, 7, 10,000 years. There could be, and here's the thing too. It could be a bacteria or a virus that not necessarily is lethal, but when it hits the air and meets something from today, and those two mix, and they kind of
mutation, man.
Yeah, they mutate, and so it's I like that. Number two. Number two.
And I think that it's important to know that when our body, and every pregnant woman will tell you this, when there is something that is changing or different in your body acts in crazy ways. Like, I've been pregnant twice, and each time my body did the craziest things. But a lot of times it does that to signal that you need something or that you want something. And there is a couple things that I think is really interesting. Like, for instance, when your body craves iron or you are iron deficient, it makes you have a need to chew ice, right?
Yeah, I worked with a lady like that, and then she would chew 3, 4 cups of ice a day, and finally somebody told her, go to the doctor, you're going to find out you have an iron deficiency. Sure enough.
That's me. In fact, I craved ice so badly when I was pregnant with my daughter that after she was born, I had to have 2 iron infusions because my iron was so low.
Oh, wow.
So our body does really strange things when it's deficient or when it's fighting something. Fever dreams. You ever had a crazy fever dream?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who's to say? I mean, anthrax makes you die from bleeding internally. Like, you just bleed out internally. Who knows? Who knows what any of these viruses or bacteria could cause us to do? If chewing ice is a sign of iron deficiency, if I have a virus that's making me bleed out from my liver, I may crave blood of another human. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I mean, those are all viable scenarios. So I like it. I'm picking up what you're
So,
throwing down tonight. I'm liking
all
it.
right. However, my personal number one way that I think humans are going to turn into zombies is the Ophicordyceps unilateralis. Unilateralis.
All right.
Okay.
Folks, hold on. I'm calling Elon Musk on this one. No, I'm just kidding.
So,
all right.
I'm not going to try to pronounce it again. I'm just going to call it the OU. And what the OU is that it is an insect pathogenic fungus. It was originally discovered, and I'm taking this is from Wikipedia. All of this is substantiated. It's not just a random Wikipedia. But it was discovered by the British naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace in 1859. And it's currently found predominantly in the tropical forest ecosystems.
Mm-hmm.
But what this does is this fungus infects ants and the specific types of ants. However, but the full pathogenesis being characterized by the alteration of the behavioral patterns of the insect ant. The infected hosts leave their canopy nests and foraging trails of the forest floor, an area with a temperature and humidity suitable for fungal growth. They then use their mandibles to affix themselves to a major vein on the underside of the leaf where the host remains until its eventual death. So let me break this down. So these sweet little ants, they're in their own little ant colony. This fungus comes and it actually infects and takes over the ant brain. Mm-hmm. So the ant essentially loses function of their own body, and the fungus takes over the brain and the workings of the ant and trucks the little ant down off of his little tree and onto a new tree at the very bottom and attaches itself to a very, very specific part of this leaf, where it's like the main leaf artery, so that the ant can dig in with its mandibles and stay there and suck all the nutrients out until the fungus then explodes out of the ant's brain and then finds a new ant. Now, right? They actually call it the zombie fungus. So,
okay.
All right.
I'm writing that one down.
Now, what is interesting about this fungus is that it emits a pheromone, or the ant does once it becomes infected, and the other ants within the colony then move those ants away from the rest of the colony so that the other ants can't become infected. But the ant literally loses all functionality and like, I don't want to say
basically,
free will, but
right. The fungus is controlling it, and at that point, it's doing basically what the fungus wants it to do.
Exactly.
Wow,
exactly.
Yeah, that's wild.
Now, there's been a lot of research, because this is clearly not, I'm not the first person to think of this. There's been a lot of research as to whether this sort of fungus could inhabit a human. And the research that's been done says no, this isn't anything that can take over a human body right now. But when we talk about evolutionary wise, or when we talk about, the way that we are seeing things come up from the tropics, I mean, migration patterns are different. Mm-hmm. Animals are different. Mm-hmm. Flora and fauna is in different places now than it ever has been. I think it's really interesting that as ecology changes, obviously, nature finds a way. Thank you, Jeff Goldblum. I think that in 1,000 years, if humans are still alive, I think there's a strong possibility that if zombies are going to happen to humans, that a brain fungus is going to be what gets us.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, it's one of those things where if you want to see humans turn on other humans for sustenance or for, you know, like we said, those sorts of cravings that can only be found through one thing, and a brain fungus sure sounds like it's going to be it. So.
No, I buy into the brain fungus, but mine, I don't have a top 5, but I have where I could take parts from your 3, 2, and 1, and that kind of mesh together. Those 3 mesh together is my idea, because I do believe if there is to be some type of zombie outbreak, that it's going to involve AI. It's going to involve man transcending to AI human hybrid, and it's going to involve some type of fungus. Now, if that fungus is on the brain because we're using an Elon Musk neural net or neural wall or whatever they produce, a neural web, any of these,
Yeah.
and the body is, say, 75% human, 25% AI or robotic, and then we're hooked up with that neural link, and something eventually is going to grow. Something is going to happen. Something's going to evolve. And will that be the one that affects us to make us do it? Maybe. I don't know. Or it could just be people are going to smoke a whole lot of flocka and go nuts. That drug down in Florida, have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
They call it flocka. I mean, people are doing it, and they're like contorting their bodies, and they're ramming their heads into windows and jumping off buildings, and like, it's wild. It's total demonic possession type stuff. It's wild.
I like to call that natural selection.
Horrible, man. These people, I mean, they're getting so toasted out of their mind on this flocka. It's just like, they're like, whoa, maybe putting my head in this moving car at 35 miles an hour, I'll survive, and they'll give me all their money.
I mean, that's like saying that the 80s didn't have Quaaludes. You know how many people went nuts on Quaaludes? I mean.
Yeah, was it PCP too?
Yeah.
In the 70s. Hey, you know what? With all that, there's something that you got to do tonight. What? Yeah.
I don't know. Do I have another gauntlet?
Check it out. This is the gauntlet for the person that makes it back to the show 3 times. It's you, me, and 10 times 3. The gauntlet of 5 style.
Oh, no.
Right. So what this is we take and we go, and I'm going to ask you 5 similar but different questions that I've asked on the first time.
Okay.
And what the difference is it's times 3. So the question I'm asking is going to be for 10, 20, 30 years from now. So if I came out and said, will we have a space station on the moon? You got to think within 30 years.
Okay.
Or 10 years or 20 years. So it could be, they'll each be different. Some I'll have 10, 20, or 30. That's why it's you, me, and times 3. So
okay.
It could be either of the ones. So that's how I open up.
I have my fancy gauntlet shoes on. Are you ready? I'm ready.
You ready to run this thing, girl? All
right.
Ready. Will we be back to the moon within the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. With that said, will we have a man step foot on Mars within the next 20 years?
Yes.
You agree? So.
No.
No, you're saying yes.
We're going to have a woman.
Woman. So it's going to be a woman. All right.
On Mars.
Now, will it be a man and woman hand in hand, or it's going to be a woman?
I think it's going to be a woman.
All right. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right. So she believes that we will be back to the moon within 10. She believes we will get to Mars within 30. Yep. Will we have functioning AI working for us in grocery stores, walking dogs, babysitting babies in the next 20 years? That's 2000.
Not babysitting humans, but definitely in service roles, yes.
Okay, all right. And this one's for our buddy Neil. Are we going to finally figure out if the Earth is truly round, or are we flat, or was Neil right and we're a pair?
Yes. Physics. Yes.
Yes, it's going to be a pair.
It's physics. It's physics.
Yes,
we are not flat.
Okay. I'm not saying. Hey, I will not know what we are. I don't care if we're triangular. I just want to know. You know what I mean? So if we're on Mars, we're going to be able to tell what the Earth is by then, right? Right?
Sure.
Okay. You hate that question? Is that it?
I do. I hate the question. Science. It's science.
But hey, what science said, science is a religion. Science is one man's.
No.
Yes.
This is another discussion. Science is not a religion.
Okay. Now, this it is. I will argue that one. But hey, that's why we love each other. Okay, here's your last question. Are you ready?
All right.
Within the next 10 years, will we see a woman president?
God, I hope so. God, I hope so.
So we got two chances.
Yes.
That's it. We got two chances. We got this election and then one election after that. So, yeah.
God, I hope so.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. She believes we will be back to the moon in the next 10.
Yeah.
That a woman will step foot onto Mars within 20, and to shut up about the shape of the Earth. And then she's got her praying shoes on because she believes that we will have a woman president in the next 10 years.
Yep.
That's right.
I sure do.
All right.
Sure do.
That's sweet. All right. Well, that said, you want to put some closure on the zombie thing or what?
I just want to say thanks for having me back again. It's really, really fun. I really love hanging out with you. I love the discussions that we get to have. You have a really loyal, wonderful audience, and I just want to thank them right now for always embracing me and being so kind in the comments. And I would love to be back. I love to do research, so if there is something that somebody would like to see me research, throw it down below.
We're about to wrap up season 1, and I've got this thing that I'm working on, and I would like you to be a part of the second one because the first one's already booked. But we have what we're going to be doing. It's going to be called the Colossal 5, and it's a quick fire discussion. So I bring on 5 other social media hosts or radio show hosts or guests from those shows or my show. And the 5 of us get 5 questions, 5 minutes each question, and we're all going together, and I will mediate that. So, see, for example, it could be you and, it could have been Gary Housley, the first guy that I did it, XYZ. So it's going to be, I'm trying to mesh it to where it's different personalities and different thoughts. You see where I'm going with that?
Okay.
So, and then the questions for the first one where I'm kind of doing myself, but going forward, it's going to be questions that are picked by the fans. So, and we don't know what the topic will be. It'll be 5 topics, and each person will have 5 minutes per topic. So, for example, you would come on and just by random draw, you had to go first, and the topic that night was the shape of the Earth. I'm just kidding. Let's say it was brain fungus. You have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to discuss that. Now, here's the thing: you have to keep it under 5, but you don't have to go the whole 5.
Okay.
And if you're first on the first question, you'll be last on the last question. So does that make so everybody's getting a chance to put their seal on one of the topics?
Gotcha.
because not everybody wants to be first every time. So everyone on the show with the 5, everyone will be first once, second once, third. That's how it reverses, like the snake deal. But yeah, I would love to have you on. I think you would love it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be quick fire. I think it'll be, if anything, exciting. It'll be very informative, and we'll have a blast with it, I think.
I dig that. I'm down. I'm on.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Well, fans, I had Katie. She was riding shotgun tonight, man. I think we had a blast. Zombies, we gave you a lot of information up front with a little bit of the, heritage and history on the word and its tie-ins to voodoo. And Katie brought it on home, knocking it out of the park with her top 5. And while that's not my top 5, I'll take her 3, 2, 1, and I mesh them together, and bam, we have it. So, folks, with all that said, God bless, stay safe, and have a great night.
Put my heart in the cage. I'm not walking away. We're so close, yet so far. I'm reaching out to your hands. Only you understand. We're so close, yet so far.
It's been darkness since we parted ways. Reaching for the light, I hope for brighter days. I never thought that we could fade away, and shit just ain't the same. I try to fight the pain, I wish we could've stayed together forever. At least I thought that was the plan. I thought that you were my woman and I would always be your man. But now our time is up, hourglass out of sand. I guess life decided to deal us a different hand. But it's cool now, I'm finally accepting it's over. The dreams went away, but only cause I'm never sober. Been in the bottle trying to drink the weight up off my shoulders. And autopilot feels like I've been on a roller coaster. Been doing damage to myself and it's hard to resist it. Thinking about the good times, be alive, I said I didn't miss it. It's just a trip, how everything is so different. How can we be so far away but still in reaching distance? Damn.
You put my heart in the cage. I'm not walking away. We're so close, yet so far. I'm reaching out to your hands. Only you understand. We're so close, yet so far.